and following us through all sorts of media. Hello, welcome to this activity. The title is The Turkish Diaspora in the Struggle for Democracy. As far as the timing is concerned, it's a very important time. Turkish World Business Council is organizing this, and Foreign Economic Relations Board, DEİK. It's an important part of DEİK.
I think we have also international followers and audience. You can use your system, and if you press the button of the translate, you can follow in your language, English language, of our webinar. Bu bizi yabancı farklı konuklarımızın da olduğu düşüncesiyle.
We have different guests from all over the world, so that was a reminder. So let's continue. Mr. Nail Olpak, president of DEİK. At the same time, he is the president of TDIK as well. For a long time, he's been keeping tabs on what's being done, and while struggling against COVID, these platforms have become very popular in the business world. As far as I can see, Nail Bey, he said they had held almost more than 300 webinars during this period. And the deputy minister is also spending his days with webinars. I know him closely. We worked closely. A very valuable name, Mr. Yavuz Selim Kıran. And other participants I'd like to introduce. We have Mr. Olpak and myself, and we have two valuable participants. And from Deputy General Manager from Overseas Promotion General Directorate from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And in Berlin, we have a participant from SETA, important think tank organization of Turkey in international matters relating to Turkey. They prepare important reports. SETA Berlin coordinator, Mr. Zafer Meşe, welcome to you as well. I would like to say welcome to all of our participants once again, and I hope that this will be a good activity. To deliver the opening speech, Mr. Nail Olpak, I will give the word to him, but I would like to say this beforehand with your permission, especially in international relations, lobbying all over the world has been important all along, but especially during this time, the countries are using their soft powers more and more, and they're mobilizing some mechanisms more and more. So people of Turkish origin all over the world and other communities that have gone from Turkey, coming together for important matters, creating certain awarenesses. Of course, all NGOs and associations will not be thinking along the same lines, but first of all, to be respectable in the countries that they're in, socially, culturally, and economically, accomplishing important things. World Turkish Business Council has been following this, has been active for a long time. At the same time, the countries where these people are and their motherland, between those two countries, they are building a bridge based on all these parameters. And Turkey has been ascribing great importance to these activities lately. We're going to be talking about the framework of what's being done in this regard. And it is the anniversary of July 15th. So in different organs of the country and of the state, important steps are being taken. And especially our deputy minister will be informing us about those, what's being done in Turkey in organizations, and also which coordination activities are being done in the international arena. We'll be talking to our deputy minister soon. He's going to be having a comprehensive conversation. But first of all, please, President of Foreign Economic Relations Board, at the same time President of the World Turkish Business Council, Mr. Olpak, please. Hakan Bey, thank you very much for your moderation and for your comprehensive introduction. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Minister and the Deputy General Manager and the SETA Berlin Coordinator and the members of our valuable diaspora, distinguished participants. I'd like to thank them on behalf of myself and DEİK and TDIK. Yes, the main reason for this meeting today is the heroic stance that our public has demonstrated against the coup attempt. I would like to express one thing before that. Foreign Economic Relations Board is active with 146 business councils, and in those activities, starting from the ministry, ambassadors, councils general, and from the Ministry of Trade, our commercial attachés are our stakeholders abroad. We knew this, we were aware of this. However, throughout this pandemic process, all of these activities were conducted over the video systems, which showed us that there's a lot more to this than being together. Our ambassadors, commercial attachés, and in 4 months, we have exceeded 400 activities. And they have had very frequent and numerous participants. I'm very happy for this. Why did I say this? From time to time, in the meetings of World Turkish Business Council, we talk to the representatives of the diaspora, and we have sometimes heard things as follows. Could the ambassadors or councils general or attachés, how much they know the World Turkish Business Council? How important do they think we are? They would ask. And we would say to them, no, you're not thinking right. They do ascribe importance to our activities, and they are aware of us, I would say. Ambassadors, attachés, and councils general attended those meetings from time to time. So it's very clear now. I think this is a very important indicator. For those living in the country, it's different, but for those living overseas, I think we have been able to translate their feelings well. Okay, the time is flowing very rapidly. In a way, we may say, how wonderful. A symbolic day of our togetherness as a nation. It's been 4 years since that day. And from another perspective, it was such a heinous coup attempt. And in spite of that, and it's been 4 years since then, in spite of these, the damages inflicted by those heinous people and their extensions are still continuing, we may say. It's obvious that this has been scripted step by step over a period of 40 years, and we still need to be very alert and work and maintain our togetherness. And of course, when we look at from the perspective of the diaspora, as much as we have struggled over here, the countries which don't have their infrastructure to do this, the diaspora is on an away game, so it's even more important for them. So I'm saying this for the perspective of the business world. So it's our mission to give them more support. When we say support, I'd like to express the following with your permission. The support that we're going to be lending should be accepted with the logic of the business world. Plus, as far as our organization, the quality of the support is within the framework of a business platform, but at the same time, it is within the framework of its power. I think I would like to say this is important. In fact, I was going to say a few more things about DTİK, but Hakan Bey expressed so well. Still, with your permission, I would like to say a few things. The World Turkish Business Council, business people, academicians, artists, sports people constituted, not an alternative to any other organization. It's active as a platform. That's our structure. And as we all know, the diaspora, we did not replace it with another word, and I don't know if there's a need to do that. But as we have been reviewing from time to time, instead of seeing it as a brain drain, we should perhaps look at it as a brain gain. Okay, who is included in the Turkish World Business Council? They say ethnicity, faith, political view, whatever their view, those who are attached to this country with their heart is an actual member of ours, or an actual members of ours, is what we're saying. Of course, within this framework, activities performed overseas and the activities of the diaspora, I would like to review and then conclude rapidly, because the deputy minister also has a schedule. I'd like to leave more time for him. For a long time now, I was working in NGOs. One of the pictures I encountered was this. Our people are in different geographies, but they're living outside of our country. They're producing there, they're earning there, and they're paying taxes there. And they are impacted by the decisions taken by the authorities over there. But this is not just the decisions of the authorities, really. Beyond that, the authorities over there are important. They should be active in a manner that will make them feel that way. I think that is one of the perspectives we should be abiding by. So while doing this, of course, our people will be in contact with the politicians and the NGOs of our country. But the real thing is being in contact with the NGOs where they're living, with the local administrators, with the businessmen and the academicians, business world. Close contact is needed, because that close contact will impact their own lives, and indirectly it will impact our activities, I'm thinking. You know, our main point as we are doing commercial diplomacy, and all over the world, we are continuing our activities. COVID-19, yes, this epidemics has changed the direction of our activities, but we did not lose momentum. And within this process, business people active in Turkey and enterprises and the citizens, and also without making a discrimination, we have supported all over the world. And as a business person, we are proud because of this. So, because of our anniversary tomorrow, again, I would like to remember all our martyrs and be thankful. And everybody who takes ownership of our country, both here and abroad, I would like to thank them. Thank you very much for your opening speech, Mr. Nail Olpak. I've been following you for years. I've known you for years. You are an important representative of our business world. Apart from that, you are one of the leading you have worked in the leading umbrella organizations of the business world. Your experiences in the field, observations, notes, warnings maybe you may have. And once the deputy minister completes his speech, we're going to be listening to that as we continue with the panel. Thank you again. Now, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Yavuz Selim Kıran, will be delivering his speech. As I said before, Mr. Kıran follows the developments out in the field, Europe, EU, because of his duties in other ministerial organizations beforehand, international relations, our citizens, the problems Turkish people experience in the countries that they live at the point of integration sometimes, and sometimes, of course, the countries that they live in try to maneuver their politics over them. So he is very familiar with those. So I'm sure he'll throw light on all of these topics during his speech. Yes, Mr. Deputy Minister. Thank you very much, Hakan Bey. First of all, very important and meaningful session. Thank you for moderating this. You said in the beginning, we've known one another for a long time. Of course, not just me, but in our country and around the world. You have a very respected, renowned personality as a journalist. But apart from that, every problem that we encounter, you contribute to the development of our country. You're a sensitive and responsible Turkish citizen, and I would like to thank you for that. And of course, DEİK, our president, and the president of World Turkish Business Council, Mr. Nail Olpak. It's not just a representation of NGO. He is really has brought a new perspective on the concept of commercial diplomacy. He has done a lot of work that has made Turkey break out of its shell. As a sensitive businessman, he has contributed a lot. We see it in the composition of the World Turkish Business Council. He has added a totally new dimension. So I would like to thank DEİK and the TDIK for organizing this meaningful organization. I would like to thank Mr. Olpak and his administration. Now, they touched upon very important topics. Every sentence he says is a reflection of his experience. So every sentence he delivered was important. There were aspects that had to be underlined, and our citizens who are living abroad are the main elements of Turkish policy overseas. So in that regard, as a ministry, we have been supporting this kind of work. It's our mission. And Mr. Minister has very clear instructions on that. I would like to underline this. With Meri Hanım leading the way, I would like to thank the administration of the World Turkish Business Council. It's on the eve of a meaningful turning point that we have this activity, as is the case in many areas. One of the most important threats to our citizens living abroad is the terrorist organization FETÖ. And in July 2016, they had this bloody, heinous coup attempt, and it has impacted our country greatly in many areas, and we're still feeling those impacts. On the night of July 15th, our nation has gone through an important democratic exam, and we have emerged with triumph, thankfully. As we all know, the coup attempt has been attempted by Fethullah Gülenist organization, one of the bloodiest terrorist organizations. They exploit the religious sensitivity and sensibility of our citizens. They've turned individuals into criminal machines, one of the most dangerous terrorist organizations in the world. However, on July 15th, our nation disrupted this 40-year-old plan of this organization in one night. The Turkish nation has dropped an important note to the history, and the struggle for democracy and freedom has taken on a totally different dimension. They did not just want to overthrow the government, they wanted to implement reforms and wanted to prison Turkey into itself. They wanted to take over our organizations, and they would make Turkey available for external interventions. So one of the most important targets of this coup attempt was our policies. With a bloody coup attempt, instability and terror, they tried to bring it inside the country. We knew this, we were aware of this, and the nation knew very well that with the call of our president, they defended the country. Also, we know that July 15th is not just for certain circles, but even for countries that we accepted as friends. It's been an interesting attempt, because we have taken note of who is beside us, who is no longer beside us. In spite of all the evidence submitted in different countries around the world, they can find safe havens for themselves. 2023 and 2071 targets, while we're progressing towards that in Eastern Mediterranean, in Syria, in Libya, we have operations. There are countries that are looming before us like an enemy, and they are contributing financially to the Gülenist terror organization. We have taken steps legally, but the so-called developed democracies were opposed to this. They did not bring to justice Gülenist terror organization activists. So, July 15th and the determined struggle of our country was an opportunity for those who are nourishing terrorism to be exposed. So it's important and noteworthy. Yes, it's been 4 years today, but even if it's 1,000 years, the nation will always be remembering this with pride. Women, men, the elderly, the young, NGO workers, employers, from 7 to 70, all of our citizens took ownership of their freedom and their flag, and they gave a lesson to FETÖ. As you, we too went to the squares, said goodbye to our children, and we stood against the tanks. So this was a struggle of our nation for freedom, and July 15th has been an example of that. We read each and every page of our history with pride, and we progressed with our future targets. And July 15th will remain as a legendary page of our history. It's on the minds of our nation, of the world. July 15th is now among the turning points of our history. And this nation is not the object of history, it's the subject of history. And those who have ill intentions against this nation will receive the same response. The planners of this attempt and FETÖ, they had calculated where to bomb, who's going to take whom, who's going to take which duty. They had planned for this. And they had decided to shoot everyone who stood before them, who's going to invade where. They were implementing their plans. The prime ministers, ministers, the deputies of this nation, they had thought about how to inactivate them. They had planned on how to do away with the president, but they could not calculate the resilient spirit of our nation. As soon as we saw the attempt on TV, people took to the streets, and on the Bosphorus Bridge, people challenged the terrorists who were dressed as soldiers. And I was shot carrying a Muslim brother of mine. God will be defending you, Safiye Bayat. She has surprised everyone. Tanks went over her twice, but she survived and continued to resist. Oğuzhan Yaşar became a martyr on his birthday. They could not take into account these people who lost their legs, who were operated on 46 times, but they said they did not regret it. Sabri Gündüz, for instance. And that night, for the first time, a soldier did not abide by the order of his commander. Oil Okşak, Professor Dr. İlhan Baraklı, they took to the streets fearlessly that evening. This could not be foreseen. And I invite our nation to the streets, and I'm coming there myself, said our president. They could not think of this. And with this legendary struggle, that dark night has been transformed into a bright night. It's a turning point. FETÖ on July 15th and later on was defeated. It was an important blow to this organization. So FETÖ changed strategies and started more overseas, has a wide network overseas, and the resources that we're feeding him continue to do so. More than 160 countries, more than 800 educational organizations, more than 1,000 NGOs, more than 200 media organizations, thousands of companies, unfortunately, are supported by the countries they're active in, and they are continuing to provide resources for FETÖ. And our minister keeps on emphasizing struggling against FETÖ has become a priority in our foreign policy. On the one hand, in every country they're active, there's determined struggle against them. On the other hand, the FETÖ composition inside our ministry, we're trying to detect and do away with them. Strategically, like every sector and organization, they are also targeting our ministry, and through their extensions here, they were in an effort to organize themselves in our ministry. So based on our detections, they have carried disruptive work on examinations. They have replaced with members of organizations. They have given important duties at critical points. They have sent their members to programs overseas, strategic representation offices. They appointed their representatives, so much that even those who didn't speak any language were included in the ministry. They were passed in the exam, and then they were sent to language courses. And we can see this clearly as the ministry, the struggle of ours and our determination has put forth the danger of FETÖ, and December 11th, 25th process was something we started and then continued. 616 people were fired from the public sector. Hakan Bey, I would like to draw your attention, is equivalent to 23% of our staff here. So important reduction in terms of numbers, but this is a good thing. The ministry is being cleaned of this virus, is how we see it. And within that framework, we have more impactful work conducted. In the ensuing period, the number of ministerial staff that was brought to justice were close to 150, and some of them were sentenced to prison terms. It goes to show how dangerous this still is and how important it is for the struggle to continue. So as the ministry, we are continuing with the struggle without stopping. I'd like to underline once again the fact that there are less Fethullah Gülen terrorists in the ministry under the administration of our minister. We are walking towards the target of our nations in a safer manner. The second phase of our struggle, we abolished some exam methods that made it possible for them to leak into the organization. We also exposed a language prerequisite, and in cooperation with our organizations, we are carrying out the investigations with a secret structuring and organization method of FETÖ, we reach new data with each new investigation. And as such, we have been detecting the positions inside the ministry and abroad in cooperation with our people. Lately, it's also been in the press. FETÖ's European composition. We detected the presence of a group of people called marketers, and last December, we had some arrests as a result of some operations, and I would like to remind this. And this struggle is going to continue. I wanted to share this with you. Of course, FETÖ, not just for our country, but it is also danger for the countries that they're active in. In the USA, for instance, we have been working with law firms, and the financial support annually is $800 million for their schools, and 1/4 of this is really just goes into their own safe. It's an important thing to detect. We've been sharing this with the relevant units, and this revenue is used to gain political power. 680 people belonging to the group are in 36 states. They have spent $1.2 million for political support. It's not like they're stopping. They're still exploiting all sorts of resources to gain political power. Another example of what he has been doing in US is the payments for providing for hiring services. 1/3 of the budget, $3 million, has been spent for services from a single NGO. A newly opened, inexperienced construction company has been awarded a tender of $1.8 million. And the extending overseas structure of FETÖ, we have reached concrete proof in order to collapse them. They're quite a sinister group. They can change tactic rapidly, and the data and the evidence that we have, we continue to share with our relevant parties. We continue to inform the public. Several weeks ago in the US, there were rallies that FETÖ people supported. The president drew attention to this, and we have been continuing this information through our representatives abroad. We have numerous official meetings for this. 3,750 interviews have been held, 460 press conferences have been held, 950 articles and letters have been published within the scope of the program. For 44 countries and 70 members of the press were hosted in our country and informed. We're continuing to do the same, and we have the results as well. Of course, in the struggle against FETÖ, from time to time, different things are happening, but Turkey is determined and has gained significantly. Until we may inactivate the last FETÖ terrorist, until such time as FETÖ will not be able to be active anywhere in the world, we will continue to struggle. What did we do so far? What have we gained? What stages have we accomplished? In 2016, the Third Islamic Cooperation Organization meeting, FETÖ was declared as a terrorist organization there, which was important, an international organization, an important one, realized FETÖ's danger, and they declared it as a terrorist organization. Gulf Cooperation Council ministerial meeting did the same thing. Also, Asia Interparliamentarian did the same thing. In January 2017, Islamic Collaboration Parliamentary Meeting confirmed the decision. In addition to Northern Cyprus, Pakistan Higher Court declared FETÖ as a terrorist organization. And on the other hand, with all these gains, First of all, we started getting concrete results about schools, which are the main revenue of FETÖ. Partially or totally, some schools have been disrupted, and some schools in Northern Africa stopped the activities of Fethullah schools, and in other African countries, a total of 217 schools have been turned over to our financial foundation. What's important here is, lately in some countries, parents who have been sending their children to these schools have become aware of this danger. And in Ethiopia, in a state, the FETÖ school, upon the complaint of parents, was closed down in October 2019, which was a move from the base. So it showed that the threat of FETÖ was now being perceived by other people around the world. Again, the religious center in Montenegro and schools in Serbia, we closed them. Last year in Afghanistan, a total of 13 schools. Also, in various states of U.S., FETÖ schools were investigated. In Alabama last month, a school was closed down. In Texas, a school was about to be established. Their application was turned down. And again, similar to the Ethiopian example, in May, charges were brought against a school of theirs in Texas. So financial audit and investigations got underway. NGOs and all relevant units cooperated and supported, otherwise it would not have been possible. And it's noteworthy, still in 43 countries, 333 schools, 40,000 students are being taught. They're an important ally in our struggle now. In order to collapse the financial network, it was an important stage. On the other hand, money transfers, we wanted to stop them. We took administrative precautions and legal processes. More than 700 people from 100 countries were brought to justice. More than 700 people were extradited, and 192 people, part of an organization, we froze their assets. We demanded to freeze their assets. We sent this demand to 88 countries. So we are grateful to the citizens living overseas. Their support gives us power in this struggle. Citizens living abroad and NGOs are reflecting the sensitivity of our public opinion around the world. And as the president has been expressing, each and every citizen living abroad, no matter what their origin, are representatives of the Turkish nation, and they are no different from 83 million citizens we have in Turkey. So we too are trying to reach our citizens all over the world. We are concerned with their problems. In order to overcome COVID-19 problems, we have taken many steps. From 138 countries, we brought back more than 95,000 citizens. Those who required medical intervention, 161 such citizens were brought to Turkey with ambulance aircrafts, and also we lost 603 citizens, 485 of them we transported their funerals to our country. Our support is continuing in the normalization period, and for the support to be more impactful, to be able to reach our targets easier, the organization of our citizens, being in communication with them are important for us. So civilian NGOs abroad coming together as an umbrella and establishing cooperation mechanisms with one another is something we encourage all the time as a ministry, so that this solidarity is one of the indispensable factors in the struggle against FETÖ. No matter where in the world, at every opportunity, we are warning our citizens to be alert against FETÖ tactics insidious interventions. Some diplomatic career clerks who have been extradited are lending support. They may organize think tanks abroad, and within this framework, with our foreign policy leading the way, they do their best to actually make our country look bad. So we should be in unison, we should be together and in solidarity. It's very important. From 7 to 70, the citizens should be acting with this sense of responsibility. We see that this is the case, and we continue to give all sorts of support. And in the upcoming period too, our representation, citizens, together with them, with the strong support of our business world, will continue to give them support, because it's a long-term struggle, and DEİK and TDIK, their sensitivity in this regard, bringing our citizens overseas together, is really something we greatly appreciate. So this will help us reach our targets. So in that sense, I would like to thank Mr. Nail Alpak. I would like to thank him once again and express my gratitude. I congratulate the administration of DEİK and TDIK. As the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, one of the priority areas of our policies is the peace and welfare of our citizens abroad. And we are beside every step that they are taking. I would like to underline this. Hakan Bey, I'm sorry I talked too long. As I conclude now, I would like to may they rest in peace, the martyrs of July 15th. And once again, thank you very much for this very meaningful activity. World Turkish Business Council Foreign Economic Relations Board, and thank you all speakers for your contributions. My respects. Mr. Deputy Minister Yavuz Selim Kıran touched upon very important topics. Soon, he's going to be joining another meeting. That's why he has to leave us. But Deputy Minister, first of all, thank you very much for what you have said about me. I would like to thank you personally. Thank you very much. Apart from this, really, the July 15th, that heinous coup attempt and that process, as you have said, unfortunately, one of Turkey's brightest organizations, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, was targeted very seriously by FETÖ, we have seen. And that's been quite a challenging process. And you also gave the proportions in the central organization and in the international organization. FETÖ had been able to leak to important positions. In fact, when you look at it, the Turkish armed forces, the judiciary, and together with the police department, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, were the, unfortunately, organizations that were targeted the most seriously. In spite of that, today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is being concerned with all the problems, and they are engaged in a significant struggle all over the world. I would like to thank all members of the foreign missions, and Mr. Deputy Minister, I would like to thank the members of the organization for this effort. As you have also said, especially in this period, since the Prime Ministry of our President, I have been following an important portion of his overseas journeys. Lately, especially, this heinous FETÖ coup attempt. Once that happened, Mr. President addressed this issue with all his correspondents abroad, and he put the evidence in front of them. I'm aware of this. In this period, our diaspora, the Turkish diaspora, citizens of Turkish origin, their activities and the fact that they are sharing this with the people in the countries that they live is important Together with the new structurings, my foundation, Yunus Emre Institute, our ministries, and the NGOs, DTİK under the presidency of Nail Alpak, have conducted significant work in explaining this, especially in Africa and Middle East. In fact, in Latin America, these topics have been communicated very well. As Mr. Yavuz Selim Kıran has said, maybe it's not easy to complete this process from overnight. It's challenging. It will take a long time. All organizations in Turkey are aware that this is a long-term goal. And Mr. Deputy Minister, you're leaving to go on to a different meeting. Once again, we would like to thank you for your participation and for your speech. Thank you. And success to you in all of your meetings. Thank you very much, Hakan Bey, for what you have said. As Mr. Nail has said in the beginning, it's a long-term struggle. I gave some examples, but we still keep finding things to this day. Our police department safety units and our judiciary, we collaborate with them. And last year, we exported 11 people through what we detected. There are those who have escaped overseas, the so-called diplomatic career members. It's a very long-term struggle that we're involved in. And ministry is just a mirror of this, a dimension of this. But as you said, it's impacting all of our institutes. Most importantly, trying to poison the foreign policy targets. We see this in Eastern Mediterranean and Syria and Libya. There are some countries who are enemies of Turkey these days, we know, and they are the resources behind FETÖ. No surprise. They make all of their possibilities available. As I said, we have had significant gains, and of course, we're not going to stop there. Psychologically as well, in some countries, there have been significant structurings. In fact, they have leaked into the mechanisms of some countries, starting to, we observe. But compared with 4 years ago, no matter where in the world, no FETÖ member can go around easily. Turkey's hand is always on them, will continue to be so. And as the ministry, together with all of our colleagues and our presentation officers, will continue to put up the struggle, of course, with the support of DEİK and SETA. It would not be meaningful not to be together, just like we have overthrown the coup attempt. Through our togetherness, at home and abroad, we're going to be overcoming this process with the solidarity of our citizens as a whole. Thank you very much again. Thank you. Zafer Bey, were you going to say something to our Deputy Minister? I saw you raise your hand just now. I think you're on mute. No, it was a reflex, but I would like to thank the Deputy Minister for his valuable contribution. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is very active in different countries in this regard. Same situation in Germany. So thank you very much to you and your ministry. Of course, we're doing our best from our neck of the woods. However, within the framework of the German Constitution, we can conduct our activities. Otherwise, it will boomerang. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is very sensitive because of that. So I congratulate them and thank them because of this. Thank you very much. We are going to be listening to Umut Bey just now. He has international experience, also is very familiar with Germany, because Germany, unfortunately, is a very important partner of ours in international relations. But as regards FETÖ, there have been a serious division of opinion. So on the diplomatic front, on the civil society, and NGOs. We have to explain this better to this important partner. Mr. Nail Opak, we're saying goodbye to our Deputy Minister. Would you like to say something to him? And we're saying goodbye on the digital environment, but as I said in the beginning, really, we are never apart. Only today in the morning we're together in Denmark, continued in Brazil. Later on, we were together in Oman. I'm talking about our ambassadors. Continued with Libya. We talked about PPP. Now we're together here. We'll continue in the evening. So we're very happy about this. We were feeling their support, but not just us. I'm happy to hear that other parties are also feeling their support. Thank you for your participation. Again, I'm apologizing from all participants. I would like to ask for your permission. The World Turkish Business Council, we have another meeting about Turkish education in France, together with the Ministry of National Education and all other stakeholders. We're going to be having an important meeting. So that is why, in fact, I am leaving this meeting to join that one. I want to be with you, even if it's for a very short time. I was very happy to be with you today. Hopefully, together with President Nail Bey and TDIK, we're going to be continuing with the next meeting. Apologize from all participants. Good day. Thank you very much, sir. Good day. Yes. Distinguished participants, I see there are those who are watching us over YouTube and internet accounts, Twitter accounts, continuing to be broadcast this webinar. Really, as Mr. Yavuz Selim Kıran has said, it's important, this issue, education in France, the language issue, the integration of our citizens over there. After Germany, France is the second European country with the highest population of Turks. 700,000 people, if I'm not wrong. Their integration in a very important country of Europe, such as France, their participation in economic and political life is important. Mayor of an important region close to Paris is of Turkish origin now. So the relations between Ankara and Paris are quite important. We wish success to our Deputy Minister. I would like to continue with Mudaşan. Mr. Acar, you have international experience. You are familiar with Germany. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Overseas Deputy General Manager of Overseas Promotion, General Directorate. When we look at the composition, it's quite an intense, detailed, has areas of expertise, and one of these is your division. Can we hear your opinion? You're also familiar with the process in the US, a struggle against veto, also the rescripting of the lobbyism of Turkish diaspora. What do you think? You may have warnings, opinions. Could you please? Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. My thanks and gratitude under the moderation of Hakan Bey. It's a privilege. First of all, I would like to mention with respect the martyrs of July 15th. I would like to wish a long and healthy life to the veterans. We cannot find the words to describe their heroic actions because they threw themselves in front of the tanks. They are the people with the faith. As time goes, future generations will be able to understand this better. So shall we? We're all human beings. We all have worldly concerns, worldly fears that limit us. Imagine a person stripping off that fear giving up on their families, children, and throwing themselves in front of tanks. It wouldn't be enough no matter how much we thank them. Hopefully, we will no longer have such times. We will have no July 15th from now on. May they rest in peace. Struggle against FETÖ, of course. I was in the US during the coup attempt. I was in Chicago, so I followed up on what was happening there. Of course, the Turkish nation, the civilian community is needed for the struggle against FETÖ, especially in Europe and in the US. Official theses, public figures, diplomat, ambassadors, consuls general, this being expressed by them is not enough. This should be expressed by people who are living in those countries, who have become citizens of those countries. They should be expressing those. It's more important because this heinous structure we call FETÖ is fed by Turkey's weaknesses. They exaggerate and service in NGOs on the media. That is the structure that we're against. In the countries they're present, in the media, and on behalf of the politicians, they create this image of a Turkish state in the negative sense. The Turkish community, our diaspora overseas, and we're using the word diaspora. It means a community of our citizens overseas. It shows that we're reviewing our relations with them because, as you know, we always call them, those people who are longing for the nation. We feel responsible to them. We had quite a unilateral definition of that concept. There was a positive side to it. Our diaspora overseas had a different kind of development. They were never without a state. They always had a strong state support. And going abroad was not the result of a big disaster, but because of economic reasons. That's a different topic of discussion. Our diaspora overseas, in the struggle against FETÖ, they have basically contributed to us in threefold manner. First, FETÖ is not an issue between a government and an organization. In overseas countries, they're instrumental in explaining this. The president, it's not an issue between the president of Turkey and a terrorist organization. It is the same thing for PKK. It's not an issue between Turks and Kurds. It is a terrorist organization that is threatening the very tenets of the Turkish Republic. Of course, we, diplomats, consuls general, ambassadors, politicians in most places, important authorities of our country abroad, we keep repeating this. However, the diaspora overseas, organizations constituted by our people working on this thesis, it has supported the struggle greatly. Second is the FETÖ people, they're breaking their negative influence on the elected groups because lobbyists, diaspora groups, they are part of the system. This is a bit different from the lobby approach of the Europeans. There are lobby companies, diaspora groups. They approach the elected people. They explain their feelings, their thoughts, and they may impact on decision-making processes. Of course, in recent years, our diaspora organizations have been doing the same, but the handicap is the groups that we're struggling against have started 50, 60, 100 years ahead of us. They are integrated, they have the structures in place, and they are involved in the decision-making processes. So we are just starting out in this process in recent years. Another factor is the FETÖ people do not represent the Turkish society overseas. This is what we should be underlining. We need the diaspora for this. In this region that I work, I know very well on certain days, there are certain festivals organized. It's as if they promote themselves as a Turkish community living there. That's what I call the silent majority. We need the contributions of the representatives of our own people. World Turkish Business Council and DEİK have strong names, be it in the struggle against FETÖ, be it in the promotion of Turkey overseas. They have delivered great services and will continue to do so. We overseas, where we're working, where we're talking to our relevant parties, of course, friendship, alliance, political relations are an important part of the agenda. My personal observation is where I'm noted the most is what we may contribute politically, economically, and commercially to those countries. How many Turks live in that country? How many enterprises they own? How many local citizens they employ? These are the most impactful part of all of our conversations with them, and these are the contributions of the Turkish World Business Council. So struggle against FETÖ, an important part of this is to break down this perception operation that they're trying to create against us. And that is directly linked to having a relationship of interest with that country. How do you contribute to that country? Of course, for years we've been wishing for this, and we've had significant accomplishments in recent years, like FDI to Turkey, creating employment in Turkey. We've been successful. But let's not forget that the other countries are also wishing for the same thing, the super economy, $20 trillion worth of America. Believe me, their expectations are no different. I work in the Council General of Chicago. The mayors, the governors that I talk to, the smallest unit administrators, they always ask how you can contribute to us. There's this factory that's been closed down. Can Turkish businessmen buy this and make something good of it? You know, maybe something you don't expect from a super economy. They have demands like this as well. So this collaboration, if we can have this bilaterally, if you can leave a trace on that country in the business world, this economic power at the end of the day will be a great impetus for our diaspora there. It will give them huge support. Commercial diplomacy is really a very, very right thing to say. But of course, over the years, it was French and it became English. But of course, trade and economy is the language. When you have reciprocal economic interests, no matter what language you speak, you understand one another, and you become even more sensitive to their sensitivities and sensibilities. It's so obvious. Recently, this Hagia Sophia discussion, look on the social media, especially some things that have been shared by elected officials of the US. I don't think it's their own direct sphere of interest, really. I think behind all of these are certain diaspora groups, lobby groups. They send them speech notes, and they want this sensitivity to be expressed by political people. This effort, the diaspora abroad, should become part of this effort. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, about their struggle against FETÖ, our deputy minister explained the important points. There are experts working in the ministry just for this. They're a lot more competent than me to talk about this. Of course, about the COVID developments, the deputy minister touched upon those as well. Their contributions at this point are unforgettable. Under the leadership of our minister, they have led the efforts against COVID-19. 95,000 citizens from 135 countries have been evacuated. Really, the success of our country in the struggle against COVID is really worth recognizing. As someone who has lived in Europe and the US, when I do the comparisons from my own daily life, I can see the success. As a result, what I'd like to say is struggle against FETÖ is, of course, a long-term struggle. And in this struggle, we need the overseas leg more than ever. Especially, I would like to underline this struggle once again, because one of the strategies of FETÖ on the social media is this. With it's like they're trying to create the impression that FETÖ is being victimized. So, of course, I believe that the Turkish society at home and abroad will not allow this. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. Mr. Nail Alpak, would you like to make an addition to what's been talked about so far? Because I'm going to go off to Berlin, and I think we're going to get important information. First, let's listen to Mr. Zafer. Okay, Zafer Bey, when you were explaining just now, you underlined something very important for me. You said German Constitution. You said we're continuing our activities in line with the German law. Of course, it's very critical. On the one hand, our diplomatic relations, commercial relations, our citizens there, all people who have gone from Turkey. It's a process that needs to be managed very carefully, but in general, the Berlin judiciary or Berlin administration has not so far been able to fulfill Turkey's expectations. What should be done, do you think, in this subject and the economic engine of Europe, Germany? You're active in the capital of that country. You know Europe very well. What would you like to say? If you could unmute yourself, please. Well, I'm used to this, but I don't know why I have not unmuted myself. Thank you very much, Hakan Bey. First of all, I would like to thank DEİK for their kind invitation. I would like to thank all participants. My respects to you all. I will directly, we don't have much time, I will directly start. Of course, the struggle against FETÖ. Why is it important in Germany? Because Germany and Turkey have a very special relationship. In fact, one of the factors is that more than half of the Turkish diaspora around the world is in Germany. So naturally, FETÖ's structuring has started from the 70s. And because of that, they've been escaping to Germany. Of course, their head is in the US, but the significant sources of its composition is in Germany. However, in recent times, because there are more resources in the US, they have kind of shifted over there. But at the end of the day, Germany is a very important and safe haven. German security units, institutions who are authorized in this regard have kind of approved of this. The coup attempters escaping from Turkey or some diplomats during their application for refuge, there had been significant negotiation, and we found that out from the media. But Because the head of intelligence of Germany, for the first time, made this announcement. Fethullah Gülen's structure has not been involved in the coup attempt in Turkey, he said. He said these are civil democratic organization, they said. He had never said anything to the public, the head of the German intelligence agency, never before. These detention centers, they probably made a demand, and in the public opinion, tell them that you are supporting us, they must have said, so that our functionality, we may be functional for you. You can use us as a Swiss Army knife for any purpose, they must have said. That was so obvious. Many things that we have to do here. I emphasized just now because we should not be doing wrong, especially as NGOs. Within the legal framework, there are many things that we can do, not just in the legal process. I will briefly tell you, in Germany, there's an address for the public opinion to be directed. The political pulse is in the capital, parliament, prime ministry, ministries, other organizations, but there's this common wisdom community. Public opinion is managed. There's this community that guides it, 1 to 2%. These are actors in different areas. What are those different areas? The political decision-making authorities, bureaucrats, politicians, Berlin representations of global companies, NGOs, think tanks. These generally work with serve the ministries as consultants. And here, the discussions are interpreted here. Of course, the international representatives of the visual and printed media, the same. But until the last 2 or 3 years, we have never intervened in this area. When we look in that area, be it think tank organizations, be it the bureaucrats of the German state, the politicians, here, the FETÖ civilian structure on the shop window of Germany, Islam integration Turkey, racism, discrimination. Our NGOs couldn't even penetrate those discussions. They just react to those. After giving a radical reaction, they only they are directed to public opinion under a negative impression, but we have to be able to penetrate these places. So our NGOs have an important role to play here, but there too, we should be doing our homework. For years, as NGOs, we have in different areas, in education, economy, in different areas, we have religious associations. They have not interacted with their correspondents from the German side in the past, unfortunately. But contemporaneously, in the background, with the directing of the imams, as you know, these are not mosque imams. This is a title with their guidance, with those dialogue forums, business forums, and interreligious dialogue forums. They have significantly been able to guide. Even now, if you look at them over the internet, important politicians are on their advisory board, consultancy board, and these are still continuing to be the case. So therefore, as Umut Bey has also said, there is significant ground we have to cover. For instance, 2.53 years ago, when I started here, because I had worked here previously for 8 years in the Christian Democrat Party. I had a significant network, but there I was shocked. Turkey's position on the rational plane, there was no such situation. It didn't exist. Imagine in Germany, let me put it this way, we really, this 1.5 to 2%, the public opinion, those that impact the public opinion. We have never been in contact with them. We have always remained at the periphery. We have not done anything. We are not able to penetrate. We behave in a reactive way, and when we take to the streets, it's a negative thing on the public opinion. And relations between Turkey and Germany go up and down. And because of this, because, for 3 years there were political calculations, challenges, etc. And on the NGO side, it was recognized. Now NGOs close to Turkey we're all like that. We have the love of our country in us. And about the coup attempt, we have the same position here. For instance, 2 weeks after July 15th, there was this rally in Cologne. And during those 2 weeks, it was so tense between Germans and the German public opinion that the police positioned straight shooters. 30,000, 40,000 people attended the rally, and they had an order to shoot if anything happens. It was even reflected on the media. So in a very challenging period, we have to be careful about the following. We're always going to be struggling for Turkey, of course, but here we should also be conveying the message that we're an integral part of this country. We should always communicate the knowledge that we are taking note of German. I discussed with a friend of mine, and he gave me a very good example. He says, when you're too close to the sun, when you're distant from the sun, in a logical distance, it warms you. If you get too close, it burns you. And when you get too far, it freezes you. That's the position of the NGOs. When you come too close to Turkey during those times of turbulence, the Germans question this matter of identity. Are you from this country? Are you not from this country? And not just in words. Statewide ministries, bureaucracies, they punish us. They punish other institutions of ours. But of course, when we take note of this and become too distant, then our connection with Turkey weakens. And we need communication with Turkey as well. So therefore, we should do this like Israeli pressure groups in America. There were groups of many different opinions. Hakan Bey, you should know this. But in fact, some of them criticize the state of Israel, but when it's a matter of survival of Israel, they become one. We should have a similar composition. We should strengthen the civilian part of this NGO business. Independent, but working from Turkish origin, always supporting, but here can't stand on his own feet. We need professional team. We can't even write press announcements. German journalists start erasing all of them until the half of the first page. You have to give the message in the right way. We have significant problems here, but of course, Turkish youth, they have had some positive developments in the context of education, so I'm hopeful. We should penetrate more to the common wisdom community, not through lobbying, but public diplomacy. We should be doing this. Lobbyism, paying in exchange for promise by convincing the key people you should be able to, you can guide, but in public diplomacy, you work for the public opinion, that you conquer their hearts and their brains. It's a sustainable situation. We need to struggle a lot in this area, but what I see here is that Turkey sees in different areas on the rational plane, when you defend them in such manner, maybe they may not agree with you, but at least Turkey sees are being defended. Here, 3 politicians, I made them resign. It's my personal success. In some institutes, FETÖ was on the board, in the audit board. So that's a personal pressure for me. So I should say this. Thank you. I'm curious about one thing, especially in Germany, Zafer Bey, SETA has there been problems for SETA? Any problems by German officials? Is that their approach? No. Personally, as SETA Berlin, we're a small and influential team. We are in contact with the Ministry of the Interior. We talk to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Prime Minister's office with the Turkey desk. We have a lot of negotiations with security units on different platforms. We come together. I remind them the words of the Berlin mayor. How could you do that? You know, with a sense of humor. There was an investigation from Linke Party for us. Gökay Akbulut, a deputy from Mannheim, there. We were in too many panels, platforms. We were inviting German politicians and NGOs because we worked on a lot of projects with them. And here, he was advising that we be followed by the intelligence unit. But that went to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I talked to them, and I, in fact, helped answer some questions. The funny side is, ironically, this lady wanted us to be followed by the Constitution Chamber, but she has supported PKK for years, so she was being followed by the Chamber of Constitution. So after she became a deputy, they stopped the investigation. Once she's no longer a deputy, they're gonna take her up again. So that was a good trump card for me. We have no problems, very good dialogue. In fact, sometimes when some problems arise, we are following up on some affairs in coordination with our ambassador. We come and go everywhere. Let me put it this way. We have 3-4 meetings behind closed doors a week, and we have not been isolated from anywhere. But here's what we say all the time. We're an independent organization, but we take note of Turkey, and we agree with their theses and put up the necessary struggle. Of course, we don't encounter FETÖ members, and it would not be right for us to be in the same room with them, but we are in contact with people they are in contact with, so we give them clues. We say they appear to be very democratic. There is somebody that is their head, Fethullah Gülen. Ask if they would like to criticize them. You would understand how democratic they are. You will be able to see how dogmatic they are in the background. They are a very hierarchical terrorist organization. We told them they're always ready for order. They make a god of him, we say. So work is being carried out in that regard as well. But as I have said, we are part of this country here. We give that message to the German public opinion, not just for show. We have to be like that. Long term, our second, third generations will continue to live here. the more we're respectable here as an NGO, the more helpful we can be to our country. We can't do it otherwise. Zafer Bey, thank you very much. Before I go on to Mr. Opak, lastly, Mr. Umut Acar, would you have a recommendation strategically to the Turks in the diaspora, to the civil community and their lobbying activities? How should they position themselves? And maybe it would be good to criticize as well. Where have we not been influential enough? I will take a few sentences and then close with Nail Opak. Maybe this was different. The way that Turkey looked at diaspora, a strong state and concerned with all of the problems of their citizens overseas, their need for schools, for mosques, for teachers. So it's because of the presence of the strong state behind them. Maybe that may have hindered the development of the diaspora, which is a good thing, you know. It goes to show how much the state takes care of their citizens overseas. So maybe that is why the formation of the diaspora was delayed. Those with weak states, they all had to fulfill their own needs themselves. Here's what can be done. In English, they say being relevant, keeping up with what's around you, not just with what concerns you. Even like, for instance, racism in America, what happens to Black people? If they can intervene in those things and show themselves, make their voices heard, maybe it should be done more. They are now being done more. And reacting is important when reading the newspaper, when watching a TV program, when looking at a social media message. When you encounter something negative about us, show a reaction. I saw something on the social media, especially about the Ayasofya incident, the Istanbul silhouette of minarets. You know, there was this photo with blood dripping. And enemy diaspora organization keeps sharing this time and again. I mean, if this were anti-Semitism, I mean, everything would go berserk. All lobbies would be attacking. They would be in a position to apologize. It's an Islamophobic picture. However, we have problems in making our voices heard, or the barriers erected before us on those societies prevent us from reacting appropriately. There are cultural, sociological elements here, you know, but it's like keeping up with what's happening around you and reacting. I think everything starts with that. That can be done more rapidly. And of course, SETA's activities in Berlin, we hope it will spread everywhere. As you know, there's a Turkey-American Steering Committee. They have very successful work. The diaspora institutions in America being organized, etc. Maybe this could not be predicted, but our citizens abroad, the democratic rights, the right to vote, they are, of course, expressing their views. So politics is entering associations, the national issues which are important for us in SETA issues. We should be developing the habit to collaborate. Thank you very much for your recommendations. Mr. Nail Alpak, we have listened to valuable information, recommendations. This will be your conclusion. World Turkish Business Council, TDIK, did important work until now. From now on, what do you plan to do? Thank you very much, Hakan Bey. Of course, we were with the experts of the subject, and I saw this happiness. This was the first time we saw one another. We didn't know what we were going to talk about, but we had common evaluations, assessments. Yes, our diaspora is different from diasporas that was expressed. We have another reality. The composition of our diaspora in the US, in Germany, in Australia, in France, we may increase those examples. It's not the same. And the reactions they give are not the same. So we should be analyzing those within the relevant contexts. How do I know? It's been 15 years. Starting from high school, I've been an NGO person, but I've done this more impactfully over the past 10, 15 years. If Ibn Khaldun has a theory, best organizations are formed by nomads, he says, because they have left their homelands, and where they have gone, they need to hold on to one another. They have no other alternative. But those who develop these organizations in the best possible manner are the right professionals. And the right professionals develop the organizations in the best possible manner. I guess this is what we have to elaborate on. Second is this emphasis on civilian was important, of course. Not, of course, distancing yourself from the public, but we should be able to conduct those activities with civilians. And DEİK is a civilian organization, and we should be internalizing the concept of NGOs. An NGO, at the end of the day, is a pressure group. Sometimes they say, but. No, but. That's the purpose of its establishment. They want to create pressure. And what are the limits? You should be within the boundaries of law and abide by ethical rules. So long as you do that, that means you're in accordance with your purpose of establishment. Another topic is our citizens. I will repeat, they are making money where they live, and they're impacted by the decisions taken there. Please communicate with the people in authority over there. Make them a priority. There are very good examples of this. So long as we have such examples, we'll have better results. As DEİK and TDIK, these are our main frames. There's no time left. We have plans for the future, but maybe we should say this. The diaspora, majority of it lives in Europe, right? And one of the things they're curious about in this process is the travel restrictions. When will they be lifted? So what are you doing as DEİK and TDIK, you may say? Here, together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Trade, within the framework civil initiative, we communicate our own opinion to the relevant units of the ministries in EU and European countries. It's not just tourism, but we have to do our business as well. Let's lift those restrictions about travel. We wrote letters to them. Of course, you can't get anything by just sending a letter, but it's an example. This is how we're trying to conduct the civilian part of this process, and I think we're going to get good results. We have good things that we talked about. We're not going to get tired. We're not going to give up. We love this country. We're going to continue to work for this country. Thank you, everyone who participated. Mr. President, thank you very much. As you have also expressed, each and every one of us can contribute significantly in their own way. As the media, we can help them understand reality through the right channels. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is conducting work in this anyway. Ms. Rusar Pekcan, our Minister of Trade, and you, Mr. Alpak, are working closely with her. Of course, other ministries have work in this regard. NGOs such as SETA, known around the world. Such think tanks and NGOs will, in the coming days, be working intensely. It will be very good, both for the struggle against FETÖ and also for the lobbying activities of our citizens overseas. So, this is the end of our webinar, our online conference today. Let's remind once again, the Turkish Diaspora in the Struggle for Democracy was the title. an important institute of DEİK, organized by the World Turkish Business Council, TDIK. Mr. Alpak is the president of both organizations, and he has, in a way, hosted us, Mr. Alpak, with TDIK and DEİK. I would like to thank all participants, also Mr. Deputy Minister Yavuz Selim Kıran. He had to leave early for another meeting. Mr. Umut Akjar from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He is the Deputy General Manager of Overseas Promotion General Directorate, and also from Germany, SETA Berlin Coordinator, Mr. Zafer Misha. Thank you very much. All of those who watched us, all of those who commented from YouTube and other platforms, thank you for taking the time. Mr. Alpak, hopefully we'll be together in another activity. Thank you very much again. See you in healthy days. Bye-bye.
Since 1985, we have been pursuing business opportunities throughout the world by embracing this motto: more trade. Everything began with these two words. It was then that the Turkish private sector united to adopt a joint vision, and I was given my name. Well, who am I? I am a business platform that is empowered by my founding institutions, business councils, counterpart organizations, and members pursuing business opportunities all around the world, uniting all of my stakeholders. I am DEİK. DEİK has become the locomotive organization of our private sector. 2019, Recep Tayyip Erdoğan. Well, what do I do? Exports, imports, inward and outward investments, manufacturing, and so much more. I establish new bonds and relations through business forums, B2B meetings, roundtable meetings, conferences, panel discussions, and summits across the world. I have been vigorously striving to strengthen the dynamics of the economy, steering the world's wind of change, and enhancing interactions within the private sector. Hence, I generate major contributions to my members and to the private sector with the mission I carry. I reunite Turkish business people living all around the world under a common objective. With each passing day, people, countries, and even the continents come closer. The balances of international trade are rapidly changing, while the world economy is also being reshaped. I am not trying to keep pace with this change. I am steering this change because I consider trade not as an instrument of war, but as a tool of developing societies, glamorizing the world, and contributing to the advancement of technologies that preserve and protect nature. Therefore, I am Turkey's global horizon. I am carrying Turkey's strength to the world. Now it is time to act together. I want to make business with you through my 146 business councils. I am a business platform empowered by my members. Because our mission is business diplomacy.